Why does a game need to be difficult for it to be considered good? Why does a lack of a death mechanic mean that it is faulty game design and made for babies? And why am I always tired no matter how much I sleep? The answer to one of these questions is I'm not having my recommended daily intake of iron, or RDII for short, and incoherently. The other answer to this, to the other question, that is, well, it's the video. I tend to see this question sort of pop up whenever like a new game is released that is easier than typical. But it's finally kind of hit a boiling point for me when I noticed that these criticisms were being held against my boy Yoshi, and I just won't have that. Not against my little dinosaur. No. And look, I get it. I understand the instinct. We've been fully Pavloved into equating suffering with value. I mean, you died 40 times, great game. You breezed through it, baby game. And after I've been like sort of berated by review after review after review on other people's opinions, that particular preference is sort of apparently become objective truth. Like, if it doesn't make you cry, it doesn't count, and just, okay. Look, here's the thing, and though I mean this sincerely, if you think this way, if this is your belief of video games, that is a you problem. That isn't objective truth. You're putting your expectations on what is good onto some sort of objective truth pedestal. I mean, you're allowed to dislike things. Hell, I don't like berries. Like, any of them. I hate berries. But just because I don't like berries doesn't mean that they're objectively bad. And they're not baby food just because they're sugary. That doesn't make sense. That's not coherent. Like, let's look at Dark Souls. I mean, we've all played it, and if we haven't played it, then we've lied about playing it because people are so insistent on, like, you have to play Dark Souls. It's like so pivotal for gaming history. And the only way to make them shut up is just to tell them, yeah, I played it. You just have to lie. They just won't shut up about it. Anyway, what Dark Souls does, apparently, from what I've seen, I'm not sorry about lying about that. It's the only way to shut them up. Anyway, what Dark Souls apparently does, and I'm not dunking on Dark Souls. Dark Souls is great. I mean, the whole "you died" screen is kind of iconic. But what I'm trying to say is that the difficulty is used as its sort of primary mechanism for creating meaning. I mean, the tension, the difficulty, that is the point. The release, when you finally beat like that opponent, is the point. I mean, if you get rid of the difficulty, you sort of get rid of the whole machine. You remove the difficulty and you remove the engine. I get that. That's coherent. That's good design for that game. But this design and engine isn't the be-all and end-all. You can't just start applying that logic universally as if difficulty is the only way to create meaning in gameplay and everything else is just dressing. That's like saying a comedy film is bad because there were no risk to our main cast and you weren't worried anyone was going to die. I just didn't feel anything. There were no stakes. The protagonist was never in mortal peril. 1 out of 10. Movie for babies. Like, let's just say for a second that Mr. Magoo from the movie and I think animated series could actually die. And there were actual stakes in that movie. You keep everything the same. It's still the same movie in every way, but Mr. Magoo could potentially die now. That would no longer be a comedy. I would not enjoy myself watching that film. I would get very anxious. It would be a bad movie. Now, this is not to say that stakes and death aren't important. I mean, take the bloody long night from Game of Thrones. That scene, that episode required death. Or potential death. And stakes. How did only 2 people die, by the way? Don't tell me any of that bullshit about the Dothraki losing like half their forces or like the entire forces. The whole amount of that army respawned like the next episode. Speaking of respawning, that is something I just kind of want to just touch on. No, I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll talk about that later. The thing is, these rules depend on the media, narratives and interactives. It's the context of the whole like game, media, movie, TV show, whatever. Which brings me to the context. Yoshi. I mean, the point of the game isn't stakes of death, obviously, because there is none. You cannot die in this game. You literally can't. But that doesn't mean there isn't challenge. The whole game is a book of puzzles, pun potentially intended. I was watching this review by Arlo, and he put it really aptly, surprisingly. You don't lose to a puzzle, you just take a while to solve it. Failing isn't having Yoshi fall down a cliff and dying. It's just wasting your afternoon wondering how to befriend the beheadger, and finally learning that you can't, and you kind of just have to trick the beheadger into destroying the vegetation. Speaking of the beheadger, by the way, this game is completely built around researching creatures such as these. And you have Mr. E, the encyclopedia mustache book thing, track all the data. It's very akin to like monster catching. Crazy Pokemon hasn't sued Nintendo yet. But despite these possible legal ramifications and the obvious drift away from standard platformers, someone at Nintendo sat down and said, I want to create a collection of interactive boxes where literally every creature is a puzzle piece and its own rulebook, and you get to poke at it. The game is super charming. And yeah, it's not a traditional platformer, but neither is Mario Kart being a traditional race game. It's just like, just judge the game for what it is. Now, I just want to briefly talk about the death mechanic thing and go back to like the whole respawning from Game of Thrones. If there's no real punishment for failing, a lot of people say, why would I care? And sure, in some games, yes, agreed, a horror game with no death isn't scary. A roguelike with no death is not really rogue-like. It's not a roguelike. And okay, fair. And I just want to touch base on that. So let's say you have death and you can respawn and there's meaning to it. Let's look at Celeste, ridiculously difficult game. A lot of the time you are going to be dying, but the respawn mechanic is so bloody quick that you just get to start clicking away at that platform. It sort of loses the meaning behind the death in itself. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any stakes. There's no life system. You can die as many times as you want. You're not waiting 2 minutes for a load screen. It just happens sort of immediately. You can just bump right back into it when you screw it up. I mean, where are the stakes there? How does the existence of a death mechanic actually provide anything of value? It just teaches you the game and the puzzle through repetition and practice. Unless, of course, you want to show off your death counter. But if I have to cater my argument to that, then I have to concede and take into account the experience of speedrunners. And I don't want to do that. Speedrunners aren't people. Look, there are so many bubbles of opinions and bubbles of our own personal ideas of what a game should be, and with your bubbles and my speedrunner free bubbles and all our little bubbles, we keep trying to waterboard each other in a bubble bath of our held views, and we forget that the person who bloody invented the games did it because they wanted to tell their story in the way that they wanted to. People keep forgetting that games are art and expression, and sometimes the purpose of game developers who are artists is to just, feel whimsy. The only thing that matters is, did you have fun? Because if the answer is yes, what the fuck are we talking about? Why are we arguing about this? Fun is literally the only point. It's the whole thing. Fun was always the whole thing. Yoshi just wants you to have a nice time, and no one should apologize for that. Not once. Yeah. Anyway, like, subscribe. Thank you very much for listening to my rant. Bye-bye.